It's time once again for the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we sit down with today's top influencers and entrepreneurs on the rise as they share empowering stories and ninja tips to become the fuel that ignites a positive change in your life and the lives of others. Our guests don't simply coast through life. They don't let difficult situations stop them. They set big goals, keep their eyes on the prize, and they're joining us today to share insider secrets you can use right now to step into your power and live your purpose. Now here's your host, Christy Ruffino.
Are you ready to step into your greatness? Do what you need to do to ensure that the next chapter of your life, your next story, will be written your way. Well, hi, I'm Christy Ruffino, the host of this show and the creator of the Overcoming Mediocrity Project, where everyday women tap into the power of their stories to magnify their message and elevate their brand so they can enjoy a business and life of true significance. I'm happy that you're here because this show is for people like you who are on the edge of change. You're ready to rise up, overcome mediocrity, empower your thoughts, elevate your thinking, and transform your life. Thanks for spending time with me today. Now let's get started. Today's episode is brought to you by the Overcoming Mediocrity Project. Are you ready to share your story in a life-changing book with other success-driven women? Then, what if you could use that book to get speaking gigs, podcast interviews, and possibly a new client or two? Wouldn't that be great? Well, watch out, chicken soup. Here comes Overcoming Mediocrity. Our proven system can transform your struggle story into a powerful signature message and then as one chapter in an Amazon best-selling book. Our process is simple and economical, and it will bring a lot of eyeballs on you, your business, and your big message to the world. We welcome you to apply to join our project. Just visit us at overcomingmediocrity.org and click on the apply button at the top of the page. We'll see you soon. Well, welcome. I am so excited that you are with me today on this episode, our number one premiere episode of our premiere series. And we are launching this whole episode effort with a bang by giving you 12 rapid fire episodes with 12 amazing experts. It's kind of going to be a fire hose experience where you're going to learn from so many great people that have overcome something in their life. And now they want to share their stories and they want to share their wisdom so you can actually become more empowered and equipped to live your best life. And today I have the honor of introducing you to the one, the only Bob Burg. And the reason why this episode is so special for me is because Bob has been a really close friend, mentor, and kind of a cheerleader of mine for many years. I was fortunate to have him as I was actually a city partner for him. Oh my God, I don't even remember what year it was, 2007 or so. And he had at that time come to Chicago on numerous occasions to speak to our community. Since then, he's become really just a blessing to my life, and you're going to find out why in just a moment when you have a chance to meet him. But I'm going to take now this time to really share about Bob, the business person and the speaker. Bob is a sought-after speaker at company leadership and sales conferences, sharing the platform with everyone from today's business leaders and broadcast personalities to even a former U.S. president. Bob is the author of a number of books on sales, marketing, and influence, with total book sales of well over 1 million copies. His book, The Go-Giver, co-authored with John David Mann, has sold over 975,000 copies alone, and it's been translated into 29 languages. His and John's newest parable in the Go-Giver series is the Go-Giver Influencer. And I'm going to hit the pause button for a moment and just let you know that I have read personally all of the books in the Go-Giver series, and they're all phenomenal. So beyond that, Bob is an advocate and supporter and defender of the free enterprise system. He believes that the amount of money one makes is directly proportional to how many people they serve. He's also an unapologetic animal fanatic, and he's a past member of the board of directors of Furry Friends Adoption Clinic and Ranch in his hometown of Jupiter, Florida. Let's get on with the show and let's meet Bob. Well, hello and welcome. I am ecstatic, actually, to be able to have our guest with us today, the one, the only Bob Burg. And I have had the fortune of knowing Bob for a long time, and I can claim that he's been a really influential part of my business journey. I met him, gosh, I don't even know what year it was, probably back in like 2005, maybe, when the first time you actually came to speak to our women's community. And I know they loved you, the talk you gave, some of the like exercises you did with them, where I still have people talking about it. It was just incredible. But beyond that, throughout the years, you've just been a great friend, great role model, great mentor. You've helped me in so many ways. And most importantly, getting the go-giver mindset. Because when I started networking, I didn't even think about the other person. I would just go to a room. And of course, as an introvert, I was like worried about me. And then I'd be passing out my business cards. And, I wonder why I wasn't getting any business. It's because I wasn't investing in other people. And this little book right here is the gem that just changed my whole mindset and changed my whole approach to networking. And then as a leader, as I grew my business, your leadership book was also just an instrumental part of my becoming and continuing to evolve to be a better leader. I'm not saying I'm there, but I'm continually working on it. So I want to welcome you, Bob, for joining us today.
Thanks, Christy. And, you always say that and you always give me so much credit, but, for as long, and I always appreciate that. I'm honored by it. But for as long as I've known you, you've been a great leader, a great networker. I've certainly seen you grow. I tend to, and I don't mean to be denying the law of receptivity here and receiving a compliment. However, I've got to say, I think you were doing this long before you ever came across my stuff, because you've been a great leader. You've been a mentor to me as well, and so you're always saying I'm one of your mentors. You're one of mine, and I know you are to a lot of people. So it's a mutual love fest. Believe me.
Thank you. I can sure teach people what not to do.
Well, so can I. I think we've all been there, right?
Yeah, no, true that. So you didn't just wake up one morning and realize that I'm going to be a go-giver. So how did that all come about? I mean, there's a story behind everything. That's what we're about with the Overcoming Mediocrity Project, is how we can share our stories with the world, which is our message. And then our mess that turns into our biggest message in the world, where we can support other people. But how did you kind of figure this whole thing out?
Well, it was a journey. I mean, I think like with most people, it typically is. I was very lucky in being born to a couple of great parents who just set a wonderful example. So I got to see that. And while I wouldn't have thought of the word go-giver, I mean, that's pretty much what I saw. These are, two people who are always adding value in their own unique ways to the lives of other people. So I got to see that. Now, growing up, of course, you get exposed to a lot of different type of people. Some of the people who as Jim Rohn used to say, you learn what to do, and from others, you learn what not to do. And sometimes, though, the ones who I should have learned what not to do, I did. Okay. So, I mean, I got off track for quite a while, not quite a while, but for certainly a reasonable amount of time myself. So there was the back and forth. Now, when I got into sales, because I started as a broadcaster, first I did sports, radio, and then television news. I was the late night news guy for a very, very small ABC affiliate in the Midwestern United States. I was not really particularly good at it. I could read the news. I mean, that was not a big deal. I certainly wasn't a journalist by any means. And it wasn't long before I saw that really wasn't going to be what my calling was. So I like to say I graduated into sales.
Mm.
Now, the challenge for me was that I knew nothing about sales. I had never had any formal sales training, didn't even know it existed. And the company where I started, will just say that their training was negligible at best. And when I say negligible, I mean non-existent. So I was on my own. So I floundered, and I did pretty much what you were saying. I mean, I just kind of went in and I blah, 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 blah. Products are, I'd knock on a lot of doors. I'd make a lot of phone calls. I'd see a lot of people. I'd do all those things, but I wasn't very successful. I floundered greatly. Again, referring back to Jim Rohn, I had what he would have said. I had the motivation, but not the information. Right?
Yes.
And you've got to have both. Now you can have the information, but if you don't have the motivation, you're also probably not gonna go anywhere. But you do need both. They're both important. So really, I floundered and I was very frustrated. One day I was in a bookstore, and this is, I guess, almost 40 years ago. And I came across a couple of books on sales. One was by Zig Ziglar, and the other was by Tom Hopkins, two of the legendary sales teachers. And I remember first just being inspired by the fact that these were books on selling. Today, you don't think, it's no big deal, right? But back then, I didn't know there was something like that. They just weren't as prevalent as they are now.
Right.
So I got the books, and I mean, I just tore into them, right? I mean, I'd come home after work and I was reading and I was highlighting and note-taking and underlining and dog-earing and practicing and drilling and rehearsing and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I was just, and within a few weeks, my sales began to go through the roof.
Oh, great.
And the reason was, now I had a methodology. I had a system for doing something that I previously didn't know how to do. Now, to this day, I define a system. This is my definition, but that doesn't mean it's right. It just means it's mine. It's how I see it. I define a system as simply the process of predictably achieving a goal based on a logical and specific set of how-to principles. The key being predictability. If it's been proven that by doing A, you'll get the desired result of B, well, all you need to do is A and continue to do A and continue to do A, and eventually you'll get the desired result of B. So I started really getting into sales. And of course, as you know, a big part of sales is personal development. So I started getting all the books from How to Win Friends and Influence People, to The Richest Man in Babylon, to The Magic of Thinking Big, and
all the
Secrets of this, and all the these great. And because really it's feeding our mind, it's building ourselves on the inside, and understanding that success manifests itself on the outside. But we have to build ourselves inside. We build ourselves here and here. And so I was having fun. I mean, I really enjoyed it, and I was successful at it.
You're getting results.
Yes, but then what happened was I went to work for another company, and it was selling a high ticket item, and I started off okay, but then I went into a massive slump. And the more I tried to get out of this slump, the more I was focusing on myself, focusing on the sale. Is this right? It became about me.
Right.
And it was really, it was very difficult. And I remember coming back to the office one day, and there was a gentleman there, an older man. I think he retired soon after. He was not in sales. As I recall, he was in the engineering department, but I really don't even know. Again, this is, close to 40 years ago, probably now about 36, 37 years ago. And I think he saw me as kind of Joe in The Go-Giver that I would later write with John David Mann 20 years, 30 years after that, or whatever it was. He saw me as that young, ambitious, aggressive, up and coming, hardworking, but very frustrated salesperson. And really, he saw something in me that I didn't. He saw my focus was really in the wrong place. And he was one of these guys, Christy, that, and we've all known people like this, who he didn't say much, but whenever he did say something, I mean, it was always profound.
Yes.
you know?
Yeah.
So when he asked me, when he said, Burg, he was a last name kind of guy. He said, Burg, can I give you some advice? And I said, yes, absolutely. Please do. I need it. And he said, if you want to make a lot of money in sales, he said, don't have making money as your target. Your target is serving others.
Yeah.
Now, when you hit the target, he said, you'll get a reward, and that reward will come in the form of money. And you can do with that money whatever you choose.
Yeah.
But never forget, he said, the money is simply the reward for hitting the target. It ain't the target itself. Your target is serving others. And this is when it really hit me, Christy, that great salesmanship is never about the salesperson. Okay, great salesmanship is never about the product or service, as important as those are. Great salesmanship is really about the other person. It's about the lives of those who you choose to touch. It's about those people whose lives are made in some way better just by you being part of it.
Wow.
You know, and I think when we face in that direction, when we shift our focus off of ourselves, moving from what I call an I focus or me focus to an other focus, looking to bring value to that person, and we operate this way, now we're really 9 steps ahead of the game in a 10-step game.
Yeah. Wow, that is so good. I love that money is just the reward, because we can, especially as entrepreneurs, tend to get focused on that as the target. And then we lose sight of what we're really trying to do. We're really trying to help people. But because money tends to sometimes be in the way of that process, and it shouldn't be. And if we can just push it aside and just keep our eyes on the prize, which is getting that result for our client and our customer, and then the money's going to come.
Yeah. And I agree totally. And here's the thing, you know, it's not like doing that is just a nice thing to do. Okay. We've got to understand. And you know, I say this, I usually say this when I speak to a corporate sales audience, but it would be for anyone. It would be for none. And that is this: nobody is going to buy from you because you have a quota to me.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That's why I say corporate.
Exactly.
Have quotas. That, you know, nobody's going to buy from you because you need the money, or because you have a mortgage payment, or even because you're a really nice person. Okay.
Right. Right.
They're going to buy from you only because they believe they'll be better off by doing so than by not doing so.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason anyone ever should buy from you or from me or from anyone else. Now, that's good news, because it means that entrepreneur or salesperson who can take their focus off themselves and place it on that other person, that's the person who creates that benevolent context for the know, like, and trust relationship to occur.
Yeah. And it's part of the system that you mentioned earlier, because if you know that you can provide this result for the person with this problem, then that's a system, right? And if you focus on that system as you're providing their way out or their solution, then, you know, you just help as many, the more people you help, the more results you're going to get.
Exactly. And, you know, it's so funny. And I think back to that person who gave me that advice, and I didn't know that person really. I mean, and I think about a mutual friend of ours, Dondi Scumaci, who is, you know, one of the greatest leaders today, I think, you know, in certainly in the corporate marketplace. I mean, but Dondi and I always say Dondi and I came up with this term, but I think probably Dondi came up with it and I agreed, because that's usually how that goes.
She's brilliant.
And she is brilliant. She has what I call Dondiisms.
Yeah.
You know, hashtag Dondiisms, right?
Yeah.
So brilliant. But she had, I'm sure it was her who said that we call these people drive-by mentors. And drive-by mentors it's that person who you may or may not have a relationship with. You may know as, hi, how are you? Or, you know, passing the whatever, but they just happen to come along at the very exact time with the exact thing you need to hear at the exact moment you're open to hearing it.
Right. Timing. Timing is
And
everything.
you know, we never know when we're that drive-by mentor or when someone else is, or, you know, what have you. But, you know, you think about what a difference we can make in someone's life just by being there, kind of listening. You know, he obviously had that insight to know, you know, that I was ready for that and that I needed it. And I think, you know, we can always do that. We can make a big difference in people's lives.
Yeah. Yeah. So he came up to you and said, Burg, are you ready for advice? And you said, yes, please. The timing was perfect for you.
Yeah.
So how did that change? How did that change you?
It was a real mind shift, and that was the thing. And that's what I needed. Because remember, and this is where I said I kind of got off the track, right? And that is thinking it was about me. Thinking it was, oh, great, you know, pride in making the sale.
Yeah.
Well, forget about making the sale. How about bringing value to another human being?
Yeah.
You know, and that's what really did it.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you started increasing your sales, and you kind of went on this journey. How long did you stay in that company?
Yeah. I guess I was with them about a year and a half, 2 years. I worked my way up to sales manager of that company, actually.
Okay.
And and it was from doing that I was then asked to kind of speak and show others how to do the same thing that was kind of working for me. And it morphed into a speaking business. It was a little bit more roundabout than that. I'm editing it for, you know, for time, but basically that's how it happened. And yeah.
Okay. And how did the Go Giver book come about? Because I know you had a lot of books before that. I love Endless Referrals is still my Bible. Love that book. And I know I did some of your courses. Is it the Mastering the Name? I'm not sure the exact title.
Yeah, Remembering Names and Faces was one of them, and and some of the
Yeah.
You got a good memory, buddy, just to be able to think of I was even, but even the different, well, Endless Referrals was kind of my first big book in a sense. And it was a how-to book on how entrepreneurs and salespeople who had they had a great product or service, they were proud of it, they knew it brought exceptional value to others, but they may either not have been comfortable with the process of going out into their community and creating those know, like, and trust relationships. And so that was a system. The book was basically my system for doing that. But I'd always read a lot of parables and had always enjoyed parables. I think stories, they connect at a heart level that a how-to book doesn't necessarily do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I thought, what if we could take the basic premise of Endless Referrals, that was all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. I almost don't want to say that to you because you've heard me say that thing, that those words so many times. But how could we?
True. It's perfect.
Yeah. And how could we, make a parable out of that premise? And so I thought, well, okay, so what is it? What's the basic essence of a person who is able to quickly and sustainably create those know, like, and trust relationships on a consistent basis? Well, they're givers. They're typically people who are always interested in bringing exceptional value, giving value to others. So the title, The Go Giver, kind of played against the more familiar term go getter, but we would say we want people to be go getters, people of action, and go givers, people who are focused on creating value for others. We want people to be both of those, go getters and go givers. The opposite of a go giver would be a go taker, right? Yeah. And so but the title played well, right? The Go Giver. But of course, and you know this because you're friends with him too, the best thing I did for the book was asking John David Mann to be the co-author and lead writer. And because he's a genius, and I'm some how-to guy who writes step 1, step 2, step 3. So so we collaborated on that, and that's really how the Go Giver came about.
Okay. All right. Well, do you mind hanging on for a little bit longer? We'll take a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back, and then we can dive into some of the principles, if that's okay with you. Perfect. Sure. Awesome. Why spend hours networking in person and now online only to interact without ever connecting? Who wants to be even busier when our goal is simply to get more business? Since 2003, the Dynamic Professional Women's Network, aka DPWN, has established itself as the premier network for women to grow their businesses through relationship networking. With local and global members across the nation, DPWN sisters help each other prosper through collaboration, mentorship, accountability, support, wisdom, and most importantly, referral generation. To join the DPWN team, visit dpwnglobal.com. Okay, well, welcome back, Bob, and welcome back, my friends. I am so excited because now we're going to actually dive into the meat and potatoes of the Go-Giver and the principles that really changed my life, and I hope they change your life as well. So tell us about these 5 magical laws, Bob.
Yeah, so the 5 laws, the laws of value, compensation, influence, authenticity, and receptivity, are all based around a specific premise, and that is that shifting your focus from getting to giving. And when we say giving in this context, we simply mean constantly and consistently providing immense value to others, understanding that doing so is not only a more pleasant way of conducting business, it's the most financially profitable way as well. Okay,
Right.
so the first law, the law of value, says your true worth in the business sense, your true worth is determined by how much more you give in value than you take in payment. Now, this can sound a little counterintuitive when you first hear it. Give more in value than I take in payment. I mean, that sounds all nice and everything, but when I go bankrupt that way, right? And
Right.
so we simply have to understand the difference between price and value. Price is a dollar figure. It's a dollar amount. It's finite. It is what it is. Value, on the other hand, is the relative worth or desirability of a thing, of something, to the end user or beholder. In other words, what is it about this thing, this product, service, concept, idea, what have you, that brings so much worth or value to another human being that they will willingly exchange their money for it and be glad they did, while you make a very healthy profit. And you've heard me give the example before of the accountant who you hire to do your taxes, and she charges you, we'll say, $1,000. That's her fee. Literally, it's her price, $1,000. But what immense value does she give you that makes it so worthwhile for you? Well, through her years of experience, through her intent and focus on learning about you and your wants, your needs, your desires, learning about your business, what you're trying to accomplish, she's able to save you $5,000 in taxes.
Yeah.
She also saves you countless hours of time, and she
Time.
provides you and your family with the security and the peace of mind of knowing it was done correctly. So,
Yeah.
so we see that price is concrete, and in terms of price is price. Value can be both concrete in terms of the $5,000 savings, but value can also be conceptual
Mhm.
in terms of the peace of mind, right? Which probably holds more worth or value than the $5,000 savings does.
Right.
So what she did is she gave you well over $5,000 in value in exchange for $1,000 price. So she
Right.
gave you more in value than she took in payment. So you feel you're ecstatic about it. But
Mhm.
she also made a very healthy profit, because as far as she's concerned, it was worth it to her to lease out her time, her energy, her wisdom, her knowledge for that $1,000.
Yep.
Okay. So it's
A
it's a
win-win.
win-win, right?
Yeah.
And Harry Brown, who was a great uh, a writer, a political mentor, just a great guy. He used to say, in any free market-based exchange, free market simply meaning no one's forced to do business with anyone else. They do so
Mhm.
on their own accord. Okay. In any free market-based exchange, there are always 2 profits: the buyer
Mhm.
profits and the seller profits, because each of them come away better off afterwards than
Right.
they were before.
Right.
And so, but here's the thing, this is what's so important. This happened because the seller, the accountant,
Mhm.
because her focus was not on the money she was receiving. Her
Right.
focus was on the value she was giving.
Yes.
And this is why John and I say that money is an echo of value.
The first time I heard that, that was like perfect. And I
Oh,
still
thank you.
remember that when I first heard that, I'm like, it's so true. Money is the echo of value. And it's a great way to look at it differently.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, the focus has to be on the other person, right?
Yeah.
Just like that drive-by mentor taught me, right?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
the 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 money we receive is simply a result. It's the natural result of the value we provide another human being. That's basically the law of value. The law of compensation says that your income is determined by how many people you serve and how well
Mhm.
you serve them. So, where law number one says to give more in value than you take in payment, law number two tells us that the more people whose lives we touch with the
Mhm.
exceptional value we provide, the
Right.
more money with which we'll be rewarded. In the story, the CEO, Nicole Martin, one of the mentors, she told Joe, the protege, that law number one represents the law of value, represents your potential income. But
Okay.
it's law number two that represents your actual income, because law number two is about the number of lives you impact.
Right.
So you can have great value, but if you're impacting very few people, Christy, you can only earn so
So
much.
much. Yeah.
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 So
Taking
I
that
guess so.
formula, right? It's just applying that
Exactly.
formula. Yeah.
Yeah. Exceptional value plus significant reach equals very high compensation.
Yeah.
Law number three is the law of influence. And this one says that your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. Now,
Okay.
again, counterintuitive when you hear it, Pollyanna-ish sounding, right? Your influence is determined by how abundantly you place other people's interests first. So let's go into that a little bit. When we say place the other person's interests first, we absolutely do not mean you should be anyone's doormat or a martyr or self-sacrificial in any way. Absolutely not. It's simply understanding, as Joe, the protege in the story, learned from several of the mentors, the golden rule of business, of sales, of networking. And
Mhm.
that is, again, that all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. Now, here's the thing: there's no faster, there's no more powerful, there's no more effective way to elicit those feelings toward you in others
Right.
than by genuinely, right, and authentically moving from that I or me focus
Mhm.
to that other
Other
focus,
focus.
looking to, as Sam, one of the mentors in the story, advised Joe, looking to make your win all about the other person's win. So there's nothing self-sacrificial about this. It's all simply understanding that this is how it works. This is how life works.
Yeah. Wow. This is also good. So we got through the law of value so well, and the law of compensation, the law of influence,
Influence.
and the next one is the
Yeah, this
law
is the
of
law of
authenticity.
exactly. And the law of authenticity says the most valuable gift you have to offer is yourself.
Mm.
In this part of the story, Deborah Davenport, who was again one of the mentors, there were several different mentors that Joe, the protege, got to meet. And Deborah shared a very important lesson that she learned in her sales career, and that is that all the skills in the world, the sales skills, technical skills, people skills, as important as they all are, and they are all very, very important, they're also all for naught if you don't come at it from your true, authentic
Mm.
core. But when
Yeah.
you do, when you show up, as we like to say, as yourself, right? Day
Right.
after day, week after week, month after month, people feel good about you. They
Yeah.
feel confident in you. They feel safe with you. And why wouldn't they? They know who they're
Mhm.
getting. As human beings, we demand consistency in those we trust. Okay.
Right.
And when we're authentic, by the very nature of the thing, we're showing up consistently. We're showing up as
Mhm.
ourselves. And that's when people, again, begin to know, like, love, trust you, want to be in relationship with you, want to do business with you personally, want to introduce you and refer you to others. The key, though, and I think this is so important, is, because we ask the question, well, why do some people not show up authentically then? right?
Yeah.
And we think, well, are they dishonest, or are they looking to pull one over? Well, it's a big world. There's lots of people out there, but that's not usually the case. Typically, when someone does not show up authentically, and I'll say 99 times out of 100, it's simply because they don't have the self-confidence
Yeah, that's
to do
very
so.
true. I've noticed that for sure.
Yeah, they don't recognize, they don't embrace, they don't celebrate their strengths, that
Yeah.
magnificent value that they possess, both
Mm.
intrinsically and based on certain skill sets and abilities and talents and characteristics that allow them to add value to the marketplace. I mean, that's why being around a leader like yourself is so important, because you're able to help these people to see
Mm.
what their unique assets of value are.
Yeah.
That's so very important.
Yeah. And I think with social media, I think this sometimes can bring people to feel that they need to be like others. And they see something that somebody's doing, they're like, oh, I've got to do that. And there's a lot of that going on instead of sometimes we got to put our blinders up to all that and just go within and really
Yeah.
figure out who we are. And then when we're able to do that and show up authentically, then people see that they can trust us and then they're kind of attracted to us.
Well, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Authenticity is a very attractive trait. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, people confuse authenticity sometimes with letting it all hang out and just not having a filter. No, that's not
No.
authenticity. That's being rude.
I mean, I
Okay. No,
shouldn't, well, I should,
no, go, no, go right ahead. What?
no, I was going to just say something, but no, I don't think so.
but yeah. I mean, so Mark Sanborn brings up a great point that based on what you were saying. He says that a lot of times what we're seeing is on social media. We're
Yeah.
seeing other people's highlight
Highlight
reels,
reels. Yes.
right? And we look at our own blooper tapes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. The ones that keep playing over in our head over
right.
and over and
I
over
still see
again.
the one where I was 16 years old in high school and spit milk through my nose in front of a bunch of pretty girls. So, I mean,
I actually saw that on social
was a
media the
blooper
other
reel.
day, Bob.
That was last week actually, but I'll say when I was 16.
Okay.
Yeah. So we've got value and compensation, influence, authenticity. The last one,
Yes.
and you and I have talked about this, the law of receptivity.
Yes. Yeah.
And Christy, this simply says the key to effective giving is to stay open
Yes.
to receiving. And it really means nothing more than that recognizing that we breathe out
Yeah.
and we breathe in.
Yeah.
Right? We breathe out carbon dioxide, we breathe in oxygen. We breathe out, which is giving, and we breathe in, which is receiving.
Yeah.
And despite the so many negative messages we get from the world around us about money and prosperity and business and all that, the fact is, giving and receiving are not opposite concepts. Giving and receiving are simply two sides of the very same coin.
Yep.
And they work in tandem. It's not, are you a giver or a receiver? No, you're a giver and a receiver. But we know that the way life works, the laws of life say, and the laws of business say, we need to focus on the giving. We focus on the other problem, bringing immense value to those we deal with. And then we allow gratefully the receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually see that a lot with the clients I work with, that's, I think, the area that they struggle the most.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And of course I work with women. And so women, I feel, and I'm not, maybe I don't know, because I don't really work with a lot of men, but I see women really, really can struggle with that. And they feel that they just keep having to give, and they've given for so much of their life by taking care of their family and their children and their husbands, and maybe the job that they're at. And then when it comes time for them to receive and actually step into their greatness in their life, it's just hard for them.
Yeah. And this is one reason why I really suggest making proactively making a study of prosperity.
Wow.
There are people like Randy Gage.
Yeah, Randy Gage.
There's a woman in the Chicagoland area, Ellen Rogan, who's a former financial advisor, and she specialized in helping women plan. She doesn't do that anymore. She now writes books, speaks, but her whole thing, Ellen's entire thing was on the mind
Mm.
when it came to money,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
investment part, that's easy. There's a certain system of what you can do and blah, blah, blah. No, it was on how to really embrace your
Right.
prosperity. And she was so wonderful with that. There's people like Sharon Lecter. There are
Oh,
people like David Nagel and Bob Proctor. I mean, there are people out there who specialize in, and when these people talk about prosperity, I'm telling you, 99.9 of what they're teaching is the mind,
yeah. Yeah. Well, because
right?
otherwise, if the mindset's not right, you'll get it, it'll just be gone. I mean, how many stories are there about lottery winners that win, $6 million and then a year later it's all gone
Right.
because they
Exactly.
didn't know how to, their brain wasn't able to just manage that thought process of being in a different place. And then they
Sure,
just spent
absolutely.
it
It
all.
was incongruent with their self-image. Absolutely.
Yeah. 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 Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, this has been a value-packed interview. So I really, really appreciate you sharing with our audience today. And I know you have a really special gift that you want to share. And this can be located on your website, burg.com. And the link will be in the show notes below. But you have an amazing community. And that's one of the things that I really love about you. And I'm actually today having a conversation with Sophie Zellerman, I believe.
Oh yeah, Sophie. Sophie Zoe. That's what she goes by.
Okay.
Sophie Zoe.
Yeah, so we met in a different area, and then we realized we both knew you, and she's a part of your community. And
Funny.
like, when I know somebody that's in the Burg group, the Go-Giver community, I just want to connect with them because they're like-minded, and I think it's a great place to hang
And you were
out.
right, by the way. Her name is Sophie Zolman, but she goes by Sophie Zoe is her
Sophie Zoe.
moniker. I think it's really cute how she does that. It's like everything is Sophie Zoe, and it's like that's such great.
Yeah.
It's not the entire brand because her brand is being awesome and wonderful and so good at what she does. But it's like Sophie Zoe. It's like boom, you know who it is that you're.
Well, I haven't had a chance to talk with her yet. So
Go
we
good.
just scheduled a
Tell her
call so I can
tell her I
get to
said
know her.
hello.
So I'm sure I will learn all about her later on this afternoon.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I mean, my point is you just got an amazing community with just like-minded go-givers. And one of the things that you're giving away is this 5 principle to creating a culture of excellence. And so, yeah, I mean, that is going to be value-packed content to share with our listeners.
And we're very fortunate because the team that my business partner Kathy Tajanel, who you're great friends, and of course Shannon Farabee.
Yes.
And she loves you, and of course she worked with you on the book.
Yeah, she was in one of our Overcoming Mediocrity books, and then we helped her publish a book, and now we're working on a next one.
Yeah, so there's a lot of crossover within our organizations, and everyone who I'm associated with loves you, and we love your leadership and everything that you stand for, everything you are. So it's really a joy to be with you and reconnect.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Bob. And I hope you will join us again at a future date for an encore interview.
I'd love to.
You're always welcome to be joining us, and just have a blessed rest of the day.
Thanks. You too.
All right. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Overcoming Mediocrity podcast, where we believe that everyone can have the business and life of their dreams once they learn the art of mastering their story. Because mastering our stories is the key to everything we want in life. Our stories can either hold us back, or they can become the fuel that ignites a positive change in our life and the lives of others. We can choose. You can choose. Choose to overcome mediocrity with us. Let's achieve greatness together. To learn more, visit overcomingmediocrity.org. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast.